Okay, so this is topic 2.2 organizational structures in the HR unit. So, what is a organizational structure? An organizational structure is a model to show the business's interrelationships and hierarchical agreements within the firm. By that, I just mean it shows the relationships between your employees and the levels of authority between managers and employees. That's what I mean by hierarchical arrangements. Okay, so this right here is an example of what we call an organizational chart. Now, this is a very standard one, okay, and I'm going to be using this to explain these aspects of an organizational chart. So, first, delegation. Let's talk about delegation. Delegation is, in literal terms, passing on the authority to someone to give them the authority and the responsibility to complete a task, okay? So this happens from managers down below, okay? So for instance, the CEO will delegate tasks to these tier 1 managers in order to make them actually do their job and do actual work. That is how work is set out, through delegation. And it can be motivational because once you get delegated work, you feel as you're valued in the business and you feel very enrichment in your work. So, span of control. Now, this is a term that we apply to managers, and it's how how many people do the managers have under them. So let's look over here, okay? We can see that it's very relative, so you have to make sure, but I would say for this one, the span of control is very narrow because each manager only has 1, 2, 3 people straight under them that they are in direct control of, okay? So then this goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. This is a very narrow span of control because it goes 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, like it goes like that. A wide span of control would look something like this. Bang, 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 bang. All employee. That would be an example of a wide span of control. I hope that helps visualize it. So span of control means how many individuals or lower ranking employees a manager is directly responsible for. Now, levels of hierarchy. When I talk about levels of hierarchy, it does not mean how high this is on your chart. So just because this is higher than this does not mean they're on a different level of hierarchy. By that, it means how many basically levels of management there are. So here we can see there's one level at the CEO, there's a second level at the tier 1 managers, there's a third level at the tier 2 managers, and there's a fourth level at the employees. So within this business, we have 4 levels of hierarchy. And when it comes to levels of hierarchy, when you have much longer and larger levels of hierarchy, it will take much longer for information to be passed through. This kind of makes stuff a lot less effective, okay? And makes communication very less effective and opens it to lots of misinterpretations. So there are advantages, but there are also severe disadvantages like diseconomies of scale or being too big, of miscommunication with too much of levels of hierarchy. Now, chain of command. Alright, so chain of command is basically the path you have to go to in order to communicate messages to upper managers. So if we look at this employee right over here, okay, this employee, if we talk about it in a literal sense based on the organizational chart, if he wants to talk to the CEO, he will need to go to the tier 2 manager, who would then need to go to tier 1 manager, who would then relay a message to CEO. Now this may not be realistic, but this is what an organizational chart suggests, okay? So when you have large levels of hierarchy, your chain of command becomes much, much longer, which is what I was saying previous, and opens you to diseconomies of scale, of miscommunication. So now, centralization. Now, if we look here, we can say this is quite a not that central. So we have centralization and decentralization. Centralization is the aspect of all decisions are made basically through one manager and one individual, centralized individual. Whereas for decentralization is that managers have lots of scope and lots of input into what they're doing and how they work. So you can't fully infer this with just an organizational chart. You need a little bit extra context. But over here, because there are so many managers, we can infer that this is quite a decentralized organizational chart, because if there wasn't this many managers, the CEO would not need to be there, basically. So if there was not this many managers, CEO would need to make a lot more decisions by himself. Otherwise, the managers will become redundant. This is why when you have a lot more managers, that it's a more decentralized approach, because your managers are delegated to do separate tasks. But so if we go back to that, it's a CEO here, the old example, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's very centralized, because all decisions are made by the CEO towards employees. Okay, delayering. Now, delayering is, once again, we look at our levels of hierarchy. So it's kind of in the name. It's when you look at your organizational chart and you're looking at the aspects of it and you think, and when you're evaluating your organizational chart, you kind of spot a discrepancy and you'd be like, hold up a minute. My tier 1 managers are kind of redundant, and my tier 2 managers can do the exact same thing my tier 1 managers can do. So you just get rid of the entire level of hierarchy. So delayering is the dismissal or redundancy of the dismissal of an entire level of hierarchy due to redundancy or to extra cost, reducing costs. Now, line manager. When we talk about line managers, we have to look over to our span of control. So a line manager is the person that is directly involved and directly managing an individual. So if we go back to our previous example of this employee here, his line manager would be this tier 2 manager, because this tier 2 manager is directly involved, is directly above in his chain of command to delegate tasks, and basically is his manager. So if we go to another example here, then it would be tier 2. If we go tier 1 manager right here, it will be the CEO. That is what a line manager is. And lastly, we have bureaucracy. When we talk about bureaucracy, it is paperwork, okay? So it is the administration processes and operations a business needs to undergo in order to actually improve efficiency and undergo and supplement their processes and communication. So when you have lots of levels of hierarchy, like let's go back to these 6 levels, you're going to have lots of bureaucracy, because you're going to have so many files, so many different admin processes you need to go in order to talk to people, in order to make decisions, in order to, make change, because you have to look at so many different other things. And that is quite a bad thing, because it takes so much time. It makes employees feel bored and unmotivated. So that is a traditional organizational chart. Okay, so now the second part of organizational charts. What I just showed before was an example of a traditional organizational chart, okay? So that's usually what most businesses will follow, and it's kind of just the basic one everyone follows. But if we move on, we actually have in our business management unit 4 different organizational charts that we follow. So, I mean, technically 5. That one doesn't really have a name. So, first we have this thing called a matrix structure, which we will cover in more detail later. But for now, the matrix structure organizational chart is a flexible organizational structure that's tailored to meet the specific needs of a project or short-term goal. So it's nothing permanent, it's nothing long-term. It's something you make to where everyone cooperates with each other, and it's tailored for the specific needs of a specific project, plan, or anything like that. We'll get into it later. So, secondly, we have organizational chart by product. Now, if you're a really big company and your products are very, very top of the notch, this is probably something you can do. So, an example could be Apple. Apple could do organization by product, as in you have organization with the CEO, and then someone runs iPad, someone runs iPhone, and then someone runs laptop or MacBook, okay? And then someone runs AirPods, and someone runs Apple TV, okay? So, and then these guys have their own managers, tier 1, tier 2, all this stuff. So this is an example of an organization by product. It is structuring the workforce around the goods or services sold of your business. So it's basically you follow the same traditional stuff, but to originally segment your organizational structure, you split it by product. Because if you're a company, and when you would do this is when you're a company who is very diverse, okay? So I understand Apple, it's not super it's diverse, but they're all very related. But especially if you do unrelated diversification, doing a organizational by product is going to be really useful, because you can specialize need managers and stuff for your specific products, which may not be useful for your other unrelated diversification. So if you access risk-bearing economies of scale, or you have a large product portfolio, organization by product could be one to use. Now, third, we have organization by function. Now, by function, I mean you split it through departments. So one can be marketing, second can be finance, third can be operations, okay? And then through this, your business is very focused, okay? It is the structuring of your workforce around specialized roles or tasks. So everyone in the marketing will work on marketing and marketing only. Everyone in finance will work on finance and finance only. Everyone in operations will work on operations and operations only. This helps makes your employees very specialized at what they do, okay? And it kind of gets you to be more efficient in your tasks, because your high-skilled workers, if you employ them, are specialized, specifically tailored for the function you've given them. So this helps improve efficiency, and it's quite useful for a business that's very coherent with their products, okay? So that all managers can work together. But once again, you need great compatibility within your organization if you want to do an organization by function, because as each strand or function of a business is separate, okay, you need to make sure these top managers, these tier 1 managers, are working together. The marketing head, finance head, not even just them, everyone underneath as well, because a business cannot run if all of these are not working simultaneously. And fourth, we have organization by region, okay? Now, this is in the name. It's structuring a workforce according to geographical areas based on where your firm's operating. Now, this obviously will only apply to MNCs, multinational corporations that link to 1.6. If you're a massive multinational corporation, you can do an organization by region. For me, I would think a great example for this one would be McDonald's, because McDonald's are in almost every country in the world, but it's different than other companies, okay, that are in every country. Coca-Cola is in almost everywhere, but the reason I believe McDonald's was an organization by region is because every McDonald's, every region is tailored to that specific region, and that is one of the advantages of this. Once you follow an organization by region, you can be very culturally focused with your products within those specific regions. And once again, you're very specialized in the area you are. So you don't have to be working internationally. However, this could leave a lot of like labor mobility within your company. So when there's chance for internal growth, it might require a lot of labor mobility. So you need to make sure like your employees might be okay with this geographical mobility and mental mobility, this promotional mobility. Yep, those are the 4 types of organizational charts. Okay, so as I was saying, matrix structure. Now, as I was saying, it was a flexible organizational structure that is tailored to meet the specific needs of projects or short-term goals, okay? So these are projects that are basically started in order to a group of people that have started to work together because of an oncoming project, but then are then disbanded after the completion of the project. So this is usually on works like higher critical projects, especially when time is of essence, okay? When you need to get something done quick, you make a team, get it done, okay? Now, these are led by a project leader, project manager, okay, who's in charge with the particular project, okay? So it could be like maybe you're expanding somewhere or you're making a new product or something like that. These guys are what you call it. So decision making in a matrix structure is centralized, okay? But what do you call it? The dedicated team works together to reach a common goal, and they all work completely together. Now, I'm not going to draw it. Actually, I'll draw a simple part, okay? So it'll be like one guy here, one guy here, one guy here, one guy here, one guy here. And they all have levels of hierarchy with each other, okay? So that's basically what a matrix structure is. And yeah, that's about it for the HL matrix structure. And then we move on to something we call the Shamrock structure, okay? So this guy called Charles Handy made this thing called a Shamrock organizational structure. And he proposes this is how all businesses should structure themselves. You should put yourself into your employees in your organization into 3 different categories. 1, the professional core. Secondly, your contingent workforce. 3rd, your outsourced vendors, okay? So let's look at the professional core. When we talk about professional core, this is also known as something called core workers, okay? These consists of full-time experts or full-time employees that are vital for your organization's operations and survivals. So these can be like your little detrimental employees. So for schools, this would be your teachers. These are your professional core employees. These are your core workers that always have to be there, okay? They are essential for the business in order to meet your business objectives properly. And yeah, so you need a certain percent of your business to be core workers and professional cores. Secondly, we have what we call the contingent workforce, okay? Now, in other words, we can also call the contingent workforce the peripheral workers, okay? These are temporary staff in your organization that could be part-time, seasonal workers, flexi-time workers who perform routine jobs, okay? They're like, for example, schools might hire like substitute teachers in event of teachers like not being available, okay? And people who come in, grocery stores, you have routine workers, contingent workforce, okay? And then we have third, outsourced vendors, or what we call outsourced workers, okay? These are individuals of an organization that are hired on a contract basis to carry out a specific but non-core role, okay? So this occurs when this mainly consists of self-employed individuals and professionals and like contractors who are flexible and have project-based terms, okay? So when you have specific things to do, so let's say you are an art gallery, okay, and you're hosting a gala. You don't always have to hire security for your gala 24/7 if you throw one gala a year. So you can save so much cost by just outsourcing your security for that specific event. And that's the gist of what you call Handy Shamrock organization. He kind of just explains to us that organizations can become more competitive through their structure by reducing these unnecessary costs of having everyone as a full-time worker, okay? And it just makes you more responsive to market changes. It also allows you to have greater flexibility and adaptability within your number of employees and when you need to make change. So if you need to cut down on cost, you can just like stop outsourcing, maybe not use so many part-time workers, which has such a severely less detrimental effect to your business than cutting like half of your professional core workers. And then this also enables your workers to focus on their core activities. So your professional core knows what to do. Your contingent workforce knows what to do. Your outsourced vendors know what to do, okay? And yeah, but these like flexible structures can create uncertainties and therefore anxieties for workers, okay? So maybe people are like your professional core don't want to like rely on your outsourced vendors because it's uncertainties within them. And also, flexible contracts can also sometimes be a legal minefield in some countries or regions of the world where labor laws are particularly strict. So there are advantages, there are disadvantages to this, and this is just HL content. And that's it for organizational structures.